In 2018, Sam Darnold was drafted third overall to the New York Jets, one of the league's most dysfunctional organizations. From 2018 to 2020, Darnold had two different head coaches, three different offensive coordinators, and two different general managers. He proceeded to move his career to Carolina in 2021 to 2022 seasons, then enjoyed a year in San Francisco in 2023 backing up Brock Purdy. During this time, Darnold as a starter was 13 and 25 with the Jets, 8 and 9 with the Panthers, and 0 and 1 in San Francisco. He had 63 touchdowns, 56 interceptions, and around 12,000 passing yards. But in the NFL, your story can take unexpected turns. Darnold spent 2024 with the Vikings and this past year as the Seahawks, starting both seasons for both teams. With great coaching and even better resilience from Sam Darnold, his win-loss record for the past two seasons, including the postseason, is 30 and 7. He for the regular season was 28 and 6. His stats for the regular season was back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons, 60 passing touchdowns to only 26 interceptions, with a quarterback rating of 100.9. Just in his three postseason games, he has a 2-1 record with 5 touchdowns and 1 interception in those games, with an overall QBR of 103.1. A man drafted for greatness, but took about 7 to 8 years to reach the heights of his revitalized career. It makes sense that in Seattle is where he found what looks like to be a permanent home. That seemingly couldn't shake the loss from their last Super Bowl appearance. Legion of Boom disbanded. Marshawn Lynch left. Russ got traded. Pete Carroll got forced out. But resilience of an organization to get back to the promised land, they took a swing on a hot defensive coordinator coming out of Baltimore in Mike Macdonald. He posted an impressive 10-7 season in his first year, barely missing the playoffs with what we would now consider a lesser quarterback with Geno Smith. Going into the 2025 season, nobody believed in this team. Well, almost nobody, as I did have this team picked to go to the playoffs and to win their division. Well, in 2025, this team exceeded my expectations and all those of everyone else, posting a 14-3 record, claiming the division and the number one seed. This team finished as a top 3 offense and the number 1 scoring defense in 2025. A quarterback and a team that was doubted. But the story doesn't end there. This team is headed to the Super Bowl 60, and will play the New England Patriots. A team with a second-year quarterback, a coach who's head coaching again for the second time with a new team, and not to mention he did win a couple rings with the Patriots as a player. A team going into a season that didn't have enough weapons, that only won 4 games the previous season. The year-to-year comparison is absolutely crazy. Turning 4 wins into 14 wins, turning an offense that was averaging 17 points per game to now 28.8 points per game, with a defense allowing 24.5 points per game to now 18.8 points per game. Let's give plenty of credit to Josh McDaniels as well, as he was able to unlock that next level for Drake May, putting him into an MVP conversation and most likely the runner-up in his sophomore year. In 2024, May was completing about 66% of his passes, 15 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, averaging 175 yards per game with a quarterback rating of 88.1. Just 1 year later, after a new head coach, new coordinator, and a revitalized franchise trying to get back to where this franchise was when Belichick and Brady were there, May has now has his completion percentage has went up to 72%, 31 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, averaging 258 yards per game and now a quarterback rating of 113.5. This was another team I was high on, but achieved heights greater than we could have expected. The journey for May hasn't been as long as Donald, but it has been testing, playing 3 top 10 defenses in the playoffs to get to be declared as the AFC champions, and giving them the honor to play in the Super Bowl 60 against the Seattle Seahawks. This is the Fourth and Forever podcast. I'm your host, Josh Kirby, and Super Bowl's right around the corner, baby. Let's get to it. That's a W. So let's get into it. This past weekend we faced as fans, we got to witness two amazing, or I would say two differencing AFC and NFC championship games. Let's first talk about the AFC championship game, the first game of the day. It was the New England Patriots traveling to Mile High playing the Denver Broncos. And what was a clear skies and cold day up until about middle of the third quarter turned into a full-on blizzard that honestly changed the game completely. The most talked about part of this game was early in the game. The Denver Broncos were up 7-0, and instead of kicking a field goal to go up 10-0, they decided to go for it on fourth, and they did not complete the fourth down conversion. Most people saying that was the biggest costing error in the game, as in the Patriots were able to score just 10 points and were able to eke out a win at 10-7. Truthfully, this journey for both teams has been crazy. Going into the game, the Broncos were rocking with a backup quarterback with Bo Nix breaking his ankle in the previous week, and then the Patriots were coming in knowing it was going to be a uphill battle in a cold, non-forgiving environment in Denver. It's the altitude's higher, the cold was crisper, the winds were swirling. I mean, the second half of the game was basically who could not turn the ball over. That was the difference. I sat there with my girl and I said, "Hey, this is a game that you have to protect the football. One turnover can turn to a score because it's harder to tackle. It's harder to get your footing. It's everything about the game became harder as the game was progressing. You could see passes were difficult to be thrown, kicks were being difficult to be made, punts weren't looking great. Like nothing looked great. It truly was like became kind of a boring game to watch. But I mean, I think that's mainly more of a tout to the defenses. In a game like this, if you had two bad defenses, they would have scored a lot more, and a lot more. The running back game would have got going. But in a game like this, you had one of the better defenses in Denver and a very impressive defense with the Patriots. It really could have gone either way, but it went to the Patriots' favor. And honestly, I think it has to do with that fourth down call was the huge difference maker. And the quarterbacks. You trusted May. You couldn't trust Stidham as much as you could trust May. And it just, I mean, both teams. First, let me talk about the Broncos for their journey. They've worked all season to get to this point, and they knew it was going to be an uphill battle the moment Bo Nix got hurt. I give props to Sean Payton all year. I think Sean Payton has called a lot of great games this season, and I think he has led this team to be successful. But I think the biggest moment, important coaching decisions need to be flawless, and he was not flawless. He did not go for the points when he probably should have. In a game like this, the points matter. And the thing is, the weather was forecasted. Everyone said there was weather coming. No one expected it to be like that. But that was the difference. You couldn't score once that weather got there. And from that moment on, the game was a wrap. At 10-7, unless there was going to be a really big mistake by either offenses, which neither offensive looked like they wanted to make a mistake, it kind of did it in for Denver. There's a team that can run it back next year, but they have some key issues to address. Do they need to revamp the offense? I think J.K. RJ Harvey is a. They're both good RB2s, but I think you need to get a real solid Balcal back. Maybe they could use a little help on their defense. Still, their defense was really good, but I think everyone would agree the latter half of the season, the defense was not as impressive as it was at the beginning of the season and the year before. I think, but I will say, truth being told, based on how the Patriots looked, and the Patriots were definitely they had a rough playoffs. I mean, they got beat up by the Chargers, they got and pulled out the win. They were getting beat up by the Texans, pulled out the win. Now they were getting beat up by the Broncos and pulled out the win. They were a resilient team, a fighting team. But if the weather was different, and maybe Bo Nix was out there, and you had the use of Bo Nix's legs, this game might have gone the other direction. So the Denver Broncos really need to take that in hand going forward and realizing they weren't that far away and they don't want to change too much because then you might even be further away from where you were this season. As in for the Patriots, they were phenomenal. They've had a all season long. This you should have bet on. This saw this team coming. They show each and every week. Drake May, I mean, he struggled in the postseason, but truthfully, he wasn't as bad as I think people can say. I mean, he did take about 15 sacks throughout the postseason, which is bad, but he was getting hit nonstop. This offensive line's a liability. And I'll talk more about the matchup with the Seattle and with that, but it's definitely a liability right now. They're playing great defenses. They're getting beat up. I think a week break is really good for May. He needs it. He's been on his ass a lot the past 3 weeks, especially in a cold, unforgiving game like that. That's rough. I think Patriots did what they had to do to eke out the win. But I mean, you just gotta give props all around. I think this team has been Stephon Diggs. People were writing him off. He had a really good supportive season for this team. Keyshawn Booty has really had a breakout year. Pop Douglas was a good, reliable weapon at times. I mean, all their guys are rotating in on defense. I mean, you can't tell them how you. It's too many players to name for how many players that were making impacts. But just to name a few, Christian Gonzalez has proven one of the best corners in the league. Marcus Jones has been one of the better DBs on the team, moving around and even on special teams. And then Milton Williams in the middle has really helped shore up that run defense. I mean, this defense has really been performing at a higher level. But the truth of the matter is, who I want to talk about, I think what this means more to than anyone, is Mike Vrabel, a person that played for the Patriots and won a couple rings with the Patriots, went on to get his head coaching start in Tennessee. And after hoping the Tennessee Titans with I would say a below average roster, get a number one seed in the AFC with teams that had the likes of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes, that's pretty impressive. He was then fired, I think, unfairly after a bad season, and I don't think it was him. This team just didn't have players. And he took a year off from coaching, and he sat, and he waited, and the job opened up, and he took the job. He was honored to take the job, and he didn't walk around and say, let's take a year, let's figure shit out. He said, we doing it. And he laid down the law, they respected it, and then results came. And now they're playing in the Super Bowl. Props to Mike Vrabel. He came in and he turned this team around and he earned this. Now, people already had good expectations for this team going in, so he may not win Coach of the Year, but I honestly believe that he is in that conversation for what he was able to do with a 4-win team to a 14-win team. Impressive as hell. As for the night game, Seattle, the Rams coming into Seattle to play the Seahawks, that was one of the that for how rough that first game was to watch. This game was incredible. It was exciting. Stafford played well. Kyron Williams is a beast. Puka had a hell of a day. Uh, I mean, Devontae Adams was getting involved, and then on the other side, you got JSN was doing his thing. Cooper Kupp was getting very much involved. Jake Bobo with a couple great big plays. Rashid Shaheed having early in the game with that deep catch that was amazing. Kenneth Walker, he just man, he's so hard to take down. He just bouncing off guys. He's a motherfucking pinball out here. It was amazing in that. And then both defenses. I mean, Jared Verse was playing well. Um, on the other side, we saw all the Seattle's defenders making plays. I mean, Ernest Jones was in there. Some of the lineman was getting in there. And Mawari, the rookie, he was making plays. Like this was just two teams that have played each other 3 times. They've played 3 great games against each other. But truthfully, the MVP of this game, and like everyone coming to this game said if they're gonna win, they can't win this way. He can't do this. I mean, some networks call it pumpkin mode. He showed up, but he showed up, and Sam Darnold showed up big, over about 345 passing yards with 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. A man that people would have predicted he would have turned the ball over in this game, did not turn it over. If people thought they were going to win this game, they thought they were going to win this game through their defense. Yeah, their defense played well, but that's not why they won this game. They won this game because Sam Darnold wanted it, and Sam Darnold fought for it. And Sam Darnold made some big plays, executed almost perfectly, and got them the win. That was the story of this game. Now, before I continue about Seattle, the Rams. Stafford played well. They said Stafford's coming back next year. So Stafford's coming back. Devontae's coming back. So now you're going to have again Stafford, Puka, and Devontae Adams, a team that was a number 2 ranked offense in the league. Definitely will come back. Should be the number 1 or number 2 ranked offense in the league again with that type of weapons, especially with 2 talented running backs. I mean, Kyron Williams is so impressive, and whenever Blake Corum comes in, it's you almost see no difference. But yet you know Kyron's better, but still it's very impressive. And this is a defense where they know what their problem is. They have a good D line. Their linebackers are pretty good. Landman has really stepped up this season, really becoming a starter for this team. And not to mention Fisk and Young and Verse all on that D line. They get they go draft a corner or a safety and really tie up that defense. And maybe hire a new special teams coordinator, that would really help this team. Because truth being told, the two things that cost this team has been the two things that have hurt this team all year. Their secondary, I've told you, is they've been improving the last week. So I said that would be their that's what will end them. I thought it was going to end them against the Chicago Bears, but they played well there. But it ended them tonight. Their secondary was not good enough to compete against that Seattle offense, which is a top three offense in the league. Not to mention their special teams. That muff punt put Seattle in great position to score, and just that's heartbreaking. Like that is a heartbreaking kind of moment when you realize you've had returns on you, you've had blocked punts, you've had like fumbles on the special teams. Like you've had so many special teams errors throughout the year that it comes like I said entering the playoffs. Who you are in the regular season doesn't is normally who you are in the playoffs. There's certain habits your team forms, and they just don't shake them. You're entering the postseason. It may be the best version of you, but even the best version of you has flaws. Their flaws were the secondary. Their flaws were the special teams. Both were liabilities. Sam Darnold cooked them through the air, and the special teams made a critical error, costing them the game. Truthfully. Now, back to Seattle. They capitalized on everything they needed to. This was a team that I would probably say their weakness might be their offensive line, but their offensive line played really well. They have running backs played well, receivers played well. Both these teams played really well, but the difference maker was Seattle had a better secondary. They have a better, tighter, more efficient special teams, and overall the roster's better. The team's better. Now they may not have as many memorable guys as the Rams. Like you probably can remember more Rams players. You probably would rank more Rams players higher than a lot of these Seattle players. But the thing is, this team it has consistency and it has depth. A big issue for the Rams in the past couple years, based on trades they did to and money they moved around to get themselves a championship a couple years ago. It really hurt them for they didn't have first round picks for a long time. So they didn't have these guys that would come in ready to play. So a lot of this team was built in the last year and a half to get what they are now. A lot of some of their best players are only in their second or third year because they really have been newly building this team. They haven't been able to build consistent depth over time. As Seattle, who's been an up and down team, has been able to collect picks, has been able to trade away players and get more picks. I mean, they traded away what some would consider the number one receiver, and they didn't skip a beat. They didn't miss him at all, not even a little bit. He was a non-factor basically. That's the difference. Like those little things were a difference in the team. They had more depth. They were healthier. They came in. I think Seattle was just the better team, and home field advantage truly mattered. And I told everyone, I said coming to this playoffs because of how open the field is, that home field advantage is the difference maker in this game. Now, Denver, New England, it's hard to say because New England can play in the cold too. It would have been a blizzard they played in New England the whole time. I mean, I'm from Baltimore. And those who are watching this, whether you're from Baltimore or you're somewhere else, we just got hit with tons of snow. And I trust me that it's thick and it's ice and it's not fun. It wasn't fun when it was coming down. It's not fun to shovel. So I couldn't them whether they were in New England, Denver, it would have the snow would have been an issue. So but having the advantage of the home field playoffs, at least they got to play in Denver. And I do believe that if it wasn't for the weather being such a big factor, Denver had the advantage there. You could see they have the advantage on a consistent basis. And Seattle, clearly, with how the 12th man interrupts the game, they clearly gives them a little edge. Communication isn't as point on the offense. They have to get closer into the huddle. Everything changes just slightly because of the noise that the stadium can create. It was an impressive win, but at the end of the day, it may suck for the Rams, it may suck for the Broncos, but the Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks are going to Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara. So now, with them both going to the Super Bowl, now, what does that mean? Well, first of all, I'm going to do a deep dive breakdown of maybe the players in the game who I think is going to really impact the game. Just more stuff probably next week leading up to the Super Bowl. This week, I just want to give a simple breakdown, just from what I witnessed the past couple weeks. Truthfully, I think everyone knows it. I've made it pretty clear. I think Seattle's winning the Super Bowl. I think they have the better team, the better roster. I just think overall, they were set up for this moment, and I think I think, truthfully, Sam Darnold played the best game of his career in the championship round, and Sam Darnold had maybe almost non-debatable the best playoff game amongst all the quarterbacks. I mean, based on the stakes of the game, based on no turnovers, I mean, based on everything that was going against them, or at least going against him coming into the playoff game, he played lights out. And I think you could see no different going to the Super Bowl, whether he plays great or not. I can very confidently say he won't cost his team the game. As for Drake May, he had a lot of fumbles, took a lot of sacks. I wouldn't say he may give his team the edge because of his legs, but Darnold has a little mobility too. But truth being told, I think the difference of the game will be which defense can get after which quarterback at a quick, fast, and rate and rattle them a bit. Now May is pretty poised and he don't get rattled, but if the Seattle can run the ball and can let Darnold just sit there and do his thing off of play action, it's going to be a tough game. This Super Bowl, realistically, this could be a 17-20 or a 35-38 game. It could be a 14-10 game. I think based on the defenses, based on the offenses, based on everything you're putting into this game, and giving an extra week to prepare, who knows what we're going. And Vrabel, he's a defensive guy. McDonald, he's a defensive guy. But the Patriots, I think their biggest advantage is they have Josh McDaniels, who has coached a couple Super Bowls, who's coached Tom Brady. He has the advantage there. Clint Kubiak's been one of the hottest, best young coordinators in the league, and he's clearly has carried over what Kevin did with Darnold. He carried that over to Seattle. It's been a huge difference maker, I'm sure, for this team, unlocking this offense and taking Darnold. Even though Darnold's overall stats may not have been as great as last year, it was he was able to produce greater beyond expectations this year because of what this coaching staff has put forth for him. So this is a matchup that, like I said, I'm gonna give a breakdown. I'm gonna break down a little bit of everything in the matchup. Maybe what I'll probably do is the top 10 players. I compare quarterback to quarterback, weapons to weapons, coach to coach. How we do that. That's all gonna come probably next week. I don't want to bog down this podcast too heavily with that, knowing we still got a whole nother week, so I got plenty of time for that. But just in, like I said, in the simple breakdown, I give Seattle the edge, but with some a little bit of research and maybe letting it sit in a little bit, I could I could go back and forth. I could realistically give a reasoning why the Patriots would win. I mean, Drake May played like an MVP all regular season, so I could see him having a really strong Super Bowl game. They have a really good defense, a lot of great defensive players, and they have a coach that wants to win it. So that's it for the quick mention of the Super Bowl. But like I said, breakdown probably next week. But before we end the podcast, let's talk about some head coaching hires. First, I want to talk about Jeff Hafley, the defense coordinator for the Packers, going to coach the Miami Dolphins. As you know, Mike McDaniels got fired. He has been hired as the OC for the Chargers, which I think is going to be great for Justin Herbert. He's going to be able to really put in some great pass concepts and probably get this offense working, even if they don't have all their weapons. And he's worked with some banged up offensive lines. He's got a better quarterback than I think we all agree Herbert's better than Tua, so that'd be great. But Hafley comes into this after putting up a back-to-back impressive defensive seasons with Packers. I honestly don't know what to expect from him. It's gonna be. I think he's coming with a handful. You have a quarterback situation you got to figure out. The defense wasn't great last year, and his offense may not have Tyreek. So now you really got to figure out all the pieces here. Luckily, you have a running back you can trust, and Jalen Waddle's a pretty trusted wide receiver. But outside of that, you got a lot to figure out on this team. Next, we got Robert Saleh to the Tennessee Titans. I like that move. I don't know if I mentioned in the last podcast, but I do like that move. I think he can come in and establish a really nice culture. He can get that defense kind of more up to par so they can be a little more competitive while they're working on coaching up Cam Ward. But I think the real goal for this team now is to get an offense coordinator in there that can work with Cam Ward and that can really unlock his next level. Because truthfully, it was really hard to grade him last season. I mean, he was better near the end of the year, the latter half of the year. But the truth is, it was his rookie season, and I like Cam Ward, but I don't know how much I like him. And I think a lot of people feel that way because they were such a bad team last year, and you could tell that it's either the coaching or the production of the players. There was something that was not clicking last year. So moving forward, figuring out where this team goes, that I think the Salah hire is good to establish something, but you need to get a coach to coach up your quarterback, or Salah's going to be the same situation he was in with the New York Jets. Next, I think one of the more, I wouldn't say shocking hires, but one of the more safe hires, Mike McCarthy to the Steelers. Now, anyone that's been listening to this podcast when I've talked about coaching knows I am a Mike McCarthy fan. Mike McCarthy produced a Super Bowl win and a couple MVP years for Rodgers in Green Bay. He produced back to back to back 12-win seasons in Dallas with Dak Prescott and made him a viable MVP candidate. And he's been out of coaching for about a year and now coming back to a Pittsburgh system. I think it's a safe hire. He's someone that knows what he's doing. He's a good play caller. He's understands working with difficult ownership, no lack of ownership, and now a very good ownership. So he's coming into a different. I think this is such a different situation though that he's coming into compared to his last. I mean, in Green Bay he had Aaron Rodgers. He came into an Aaron Rodgers system working with being able to work with him and a lack of ownership, which has really gave him a little more freedom. He goes to Dallas. He already inherits a quarterback that you know can play with an ownership that's maybe a little too hands on. Now he's come in with a really understanding, patient ownership that wants but expects consistency and wins and a lack of quarterback. Now, whether you're putting out Mason Rudolph or Will Howard, I think the product will deliver the same. So this is a team that really needs to target a free agent quarterback because just based on draft status, they're not going to get a quarterback in this draft that can start week one. They're just not. So this is a team that really has to look at the options of are we going to trade for Mac Jones? Or are we going to go try to sign Malik Willis? I mean, there's options out there. Like do they go after Jameis Winston or do they bring back Russ or do they bring back Fields? Like, what do you do here? I think this is a lot of difficult decisions for Pittsburgh coming in, but they wanted to bring in a professional that was ready, that could handle this immediately, and I think Mike can. But I also think that this team's problem is beyond the head coach, and I think no matter what Mike does, it's kind of hard. They're still one of the oldest and most expensive defenses in the league. Their offensive line isn't too overly impressive. They still can't run the ball. They don't have a plethora of weapons on the offense. DK, I would say, underperformed this season for what he should have been able to do. The tight ends are all good, but they're not great. And you have no quarterback. You absolutely have no quarterback at the moment because who you put out there right now is not the answer. So you need to go establish that, which is going to be the number one priority. Which you can take a swing on a free agent quarterback, you could take a swing on a draft pick, or you could rock with what you have. But if you're really expecting better results or even similar results to last year, you're really, really stretching it. I think Mike McCarthy is. I think he took the job for legacy reasons. I think it was a historic franchise. It would be his third historic franchise to coach. I think it was a smart move for him to take it. But I also think, on the same regard, the Steelers may have benefited from going and getting a younger guy, bringing someone younger that hasn't done it before, and let him kind of rebuild this team from the ground up, or even bringing like a Brian Flores. He was in the candidacy. Maybe he just don't interview well. Maybe I think he would have been great for the Ravens job, which I'm about to talk about. But I think he would be great for the Steelers job as well. I think he fits the culture. He could slot right in there. He's defensive oriented, but maybe they wanted to go with an offensive mind, and if they wanted to go with an experienced offensive mind, you weren't going to get much better than Mike McCarthy at the moment, based on the pool that was out there. Clearly, you weren't getting Harbaugh, you weren't getting Stefanski. They were the two of the top targets. If you wanted to lean away from defense, you wouldn't look at someone like Sean McDermott or Flores or Salah. So I guess it was the best option for what they saw. But truthfully, I think this is a team that if they can't get the quarterback right, they're going to be sputtering for the next 2, 3 years, however long they run with this McCarthy thing. So it will be interesting to see what happens. But this is the Fourth and Forever podcast. I am a Ravens fan. I'm from Baltimore, currently in Baltimore. Let's just talk about it. We have hired a new head coach, former defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers, Jesse Minter. Now, as most of you know, Minter was on my list. I thought he was a likely candidate. We would hire him. I was hoping for Brian Flores just because I thought he would give us something new. But Minter's been in the building. He's worked with both Harbaugh brothers. And I think what I've told everyone coming into this, you don't want to change the culture here in Baltimore. We have the culture's set. We are a tough, hard nosed, pounding team. We're going to beat you up defensively and we're going to beat you up offensively. We're going to run on you and we are going to come after you. That's the culture. And then added to that, we go for Super Bowls. Since this team has been around since 1996, we have 2 Super Bowls. Most teams have never even been. There's teams that's never been there. There's many teams that's never won more than one. There's teams that's been there that hasn't won one. Look at the Buffalo Bills. 4 straight Super Bowls, not one to show for it. Nothing to show for it. We've been to 2, we won 2. But Harbaugh wasn't getting us back. I think we all can agree on that. It just wasn't. It wasn't. The message ran thin after back to back to back years of devastation. It just wasn't going to work. Now we got a guy who knows what losing in the playoffs feels like as a coordinator, doing with the Chargers in back to back devastating seasons. And really look at it, he's coming into a system where he could. What the one thing I think he can do that Harbaugh couldn't was fix our pass rush. Because clearly we do not have a pass rusher, and this defensive oriented guy, Jesse Minter, loves his edge rushers. I mean, the moment Odafe Owe went there, he looked a lot better than he looked here. Khalil Mack's career got resurged over there. I'm just saying, there's a lot of benefits of bringing him in. I mean, he's posted up back to back top 10, some would say top 5 defenses in the league. He's worked under two great head coaches, and he was on the staff when McDonald was here at one point. So he's very similar to what McDonald's and we saw what McDonald's done in 2 years in Seattle. That hints to anything for us. But he's coming into a system with a 2-time MVP quarterback, former All Pro quarterback, a guy that is in Lamar Jackson, who is when he's healthy is could be considered the best quarterback in the league. Derrick Henry, who at his age is defying the odds and is still one of the best running backs in the league. A receiving core that is very much underrated at times. Um, Kind of gets unnecessary hate, but I think we have a good receiving core we can work with. We have some free agency to work through. Obviously, we need to upgrade our offensive line, especially figure out what we're going to do with Linderbaum. Whether we're going to re-sign him, tag him, or I think we should just re-sign him. I think he's worth every penny. But if we let him walk, we now need 2 guards and a center, which is really going to be rough on Lamar and Derrick Henry. And the defense, truthfully, I think you don't need to edit too much. I think getting in maybe drafting some more defensive, maybe drafting a pass rusher, or drafting a DB. I mean, I never mind depth on our defense. I think it's good for us to have depth on our defense. With how aggressive our defense plays, guys get hurt. So having good depth is something that can really change long term. But at the end of the day, kind of like I said about the Titans, hiring a defensive coordinator as your head coach, the biggest risk you come from this is you have to get the offensive coordinator right. Because Jesse Minter's not calling the offensive plays. Jesse Minter isn't really going to be working with Lamar Jackson. Jesse Minter isn't going to be drawing up passing concepts for Lamar Jackson. He's not going to be critiquing Lamar Jackson's throwing habits and whatnot. We need an offensive coordinator to come in and make those confident, competent decisions and get Lamar back on track to run up hopefully another MVP season in the future and a Super Bowl. Truth being told, everyone that knows me knows I would like for us to hire Cliff Kingsbury. I wanted us to hire Cliff Kingsbury before we hired Todd Monken. I thought when he left Arizona, his concepts and his play design, it was phenomenal. I think Washington was a fool to let him go, but I just don't think him and Dan Quinn clicked as much as they hoped they would, and I think they wanted to try something new. Fine, go ahead, I'll take him. But outside of that, I think I think this is a great hire for us. It's new. It's kind of awkward. I mean, honestly, it's weird. I mean, this city loves Harbaugh, and trust me, if Minter comes out there and we don't perform at the heights we're all hoping he's going to perform, we're not going to give this man is not going to have long if he doesn't perform quick. I mean, truthfully, if the Ravens go out and miss the playoffs again, That head coach isn't going to walk away unscathed. Like, whether we get banged up or not, we have expectations here of championships. We didn't. We are only okay with Harbaugh getting fired for the main fact is we're hoping to bring in a coach to win us a Super Bowl. And if you come in here and you can't get this team to perform at high heights and win us a Super Bowl, the truth being told, maybe you're not the right guy. But I'm going with positivity. I'm going with open arms. So to end the podcast, I just want to say, Jesse Minter, welcome to Baltimore. Good luck on your first season. We all will be watching. Everybody, thank you for tuning into the podcast. For those of you affected by the blizzards on the East Coast and all this weather coming in, please be safe. Please be careful. And most of all, everyone have a great rest of your day.